I think hospitality is probably one of the most difficult things we do, because if you see it, it's beyond entertainment and pleasure, and just, even though I think giving food is a very profound act of hospitality, it's about trying to transform something within yourself and within that interaction. So, and you cannot have transformation if it's based on any kind of patronizing or any kind of power structure. People do say that hospitality means the host has power over the guest, but if you look at it as a duty where the guest also has obligations to themselves and towards the host, then that actually disappears. Then both are obligated in a way, and obligation is a word we don't use very much now because it's like duty and we don't talk of duty. But actually the best relationships between guest and host are where people are aware consciously, even if they don't express it, of certain boundaries. Because the last thing you want is to be a burden, whether you're the host or the guest.
I think that's a crucial question about creating asymmetrical relationships, that the host is the one with power or sort of sets the tone. I think oftentimes it has to do with recognizing that the guest also brings blessing, that the guest has something to contribute. And so if the host understands it as a blessing in the relationship, in the interchange, I think it changes the dynamic significantly. And so that everybody comes with something to share.
Hospitality doesn't require physical proximity all the time, but I think it's so relational that some kind of proximity, whether it's emotional, psychological, financial, is required. You have to feel a sense of connection and engagement with the cause or with the person.
I think in terms of physical proximity in the tradition, I mean, one of the things that would have distinguished hospitality was that there was some kind of, as you said, Mona, some kind of connection. I think most of the time that there is some physical interaction, although I think if there is physical interaction, it can be sustained without it. So lots of times people ask about whether you can practice hospitality, you know, on Facebook or on the web or something like that. And I think it's possible, but if it isn't rooted in some kind of physical connection, it becomes fairly ambiguous, not very sturdy.
What other virtues would you prioritize in Islam with hospitality? What other virtues would you prioritize with hospitality in Christianity?
So the two virtues I would prioritize immediately would be generosity and humility, because you need a level of humility to get over your own issues with people, with communities, and say, no, in order to make things better, whichever way you want to do that, I have to enact a level of humility, which basically means you're not thinking about yourself first, you're thinking about that other person or that other community. And that's not easy. And that's why I say humility, generosity, and hospitality are all attitudes to life. They're seen as doing words, but they're actually attitudes, they're adjectives as well. And we all know, because we all recognize somebody with a generous heart. They may have lots of other vices, but if they're generous, we forgive them a lot. And so there's something about generosity, humility that appeals to all of us, irrespective of our background.
I think in terms of talking about intersectionality of hospitality with other practices, first I would say that I agree with Mona, that generosity and humility are crucial to the way in which we receive guests, but also the way in which we are a guest. But then I would say in my own work and experience that gratitude is crucial, because gratitude, especially gratitude to God, gratitude for the hospitality that we received, is part of what keeps hospitality from being grudging toward guests. And then the second one, I would say, the second virtue that it would, or practice that it would interact with, is fidelity. And seeking to be faithful to a particular way of life, which includes both welcoming strangers and seeking holiness. And so I think there are tensions there, but also a richness of interaction.
There's also something else in hospitality. It leads to self-introspection. It leads to feeling unsettled, which is what is transformative. And just a very quick example, decades ago when I was a student, I went to Cairo for 10 weeks as part of my training. And the flat where I had to stay was in a poorer part of Cairo, and there were donkeys and sheep, and it was very hot and dusty. And there was an Egyptian woman, I didn't speak any Arabic at the time, and she was sitting on the step, and she cleaned a piece of cardboard for me, dusted it down, and kept put it on the step and patted on it, basically beckoning to me, you can sit here, I've cleaned this for you. And I felt so bad in myself that I was making these judgments in that neighborhood, and all she was doing was actually just trying to make a clean space for a stranger, who she obviously realized wasn't part of that neighborhood. And then as I went to the flat, 2 little children kept coming up, and they were saying something in Arabic which I couldn't understand, and I was getting annoyed. Later realized that they were the children of that woman who'd sent them up to say, ask the lady if she needs anything, she's our guest. And that has stayed with me because it did make me reflect how wrong it is to judge, to be so self-aware that you're not aware of those around you. And I would say that was a transformative episode in my life.